But when you embrace a lunatic, a sick, anti-Semitic, anti-Jew, anti-Christian, Holocaust denier, neo-Nazi, that you have now entered a dark world.
What should be our response as believers in Jesus to attacking the supporters of Israel? Israel needs your prayers right now as anti-Semitism is on the increase. Hi, and welcome to this episode of Inside the Epicenter with Joel and Lynn Rosenberg, a podcast of the Joshua Fund, a ministry dedicated to blessing Israel and her neighbors in the name of Jesus. In this episode, Joel addresses a deeply troubling moment in American media and politics. Tucker Carlson's recent embrace of Holocaust denier and neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes, his attack on Christian Zionism, and what this means for the American right, evangelical Christians, and the relationship between the U.S. and Israel. Joel explains why these developments matter, not only politically, but spiritually. He challenges listeners to discern truth from deception, to understand the biblical basis for supporting Israel, and to stand firm in faith when cultural voices turn hostile towards God's covenant people.
Why in the world is Tucker Carlson one of the most influential voices on the American right? Why is he embracing a Holocaust-denying, Jew-hating neo-Nazi? There is so much going on right now, and we're going to try to do our best to help you understand what's happening. I'm trying to understand what's happening, but I want to begin with that question. We're going to begin with that question. What in the world is Tucker Carlson doing? And yes, Tucker Carlson has become the most hostile anti-Israel voice on the American right. Now, he's competing with several others, Kanye West, Candace Owens, but so far, Tucker Carlson has been hostile to Israel, very hostile to Israel. But I would say, even though I totally disagree with him on the points that he's making, the firefight that he had, the debate with Texas conservative Senator Ted Cruz, I thought that Cruz won that debate. I was grateful that Cruz defended American foreign policy that stands with our allies, like Israel. And I was just continually baffled by where Tucker Carlson is coming from. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But you can have, let me be clear about this, you can have strong disagreements and criticisms of the Israeli government, of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, of the Jewish people in various ways, without hating Israel, right? And so criticism of Israel is legitimate. I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree with it. I can challenge it. I can push back at it, as can anyone. But embracing a neo-Nazi is crossing a line. Okay, so what Tucker Carlson's been doing for the last 2 years, I've been warning about. I first went public with my concerns, my warnings that Tucker Carlson was becoming the most hostile person on the American right towards Israel at the Family Leadership Summit, a conference of about 1,500 evangelical leaders and grassroots activists in Des Moines, Iowa, in the summer of 2024. And it has just gotten much, much worse since then. And I talked about it again when I spoke at the Family Leadership Summit in the summer of 2025. But this past week and a half, 2 weeks, Tucker Carlson has crossed a major line. Can he be pulled back? Can his friends get his attention and say, what are you doing? Criticize Israel, okay. I mean, we don't like it, but we can have a debate over that, a serious debate if you want. But when you embrace, when you try to normalize, when you platform on your podcast, which is and through Twitter, which is one of the biggest platforms of anybody on the American right, when you platform, normalize, embrace, and have a warm, friendly conversation with a Jew-hating, Holocaust-denying neo-Nazi, that is not okay. You've crossed a line. So that's one big development. And I want to show you who this person is that Tucker Carlson is embracing. He's embracing a guy named Nick Fuentes. We're going to go through a series of sound bites of Nick Fuentes so you can see. Now, you will not just hear from me that Fuentes is a bad guy. You will see just a few clips of how crazy and dangerous and sick Nick Fuentes is. And you can ask yourself, why would Tucker Carlson embrace such a crazy, dangerous, hateful person? Now, at the same time, on the same podcast, remember, you have to understand that Tucker Carlson has 16 million plus followers on X, what used to be known as Twitter. He's got like 5 million or so followers, Tucker Carlson does, on YouTube. So this was a huge impact of embracing and platforming a neo-Nazi, a guy who seems to want to be the head of the Hitler Youth in the modern age. So that's a huge problem. But there was another problem, and that is on the same program in which Tucker Carlson is cavorting, chatting happily, easily, without criticizing Nick Fuentes at all for 90 minutes or so. Tucker Carlson's also saying how much he hates and despises is the word he uses. I despise Christian Zionists, he said. And he said that Christian Zionists have a brain virus, that we're engaged in heresy.
How do you explain Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and there are a lot like that, John Bolton. I mean, I've known them all, George W. Bush, like Karl Rove. I mean, all people I know personally who I've seen like be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish. Most of them are self-described Christians, and then the Christian Zionists who are, well, Christian Zionists. Like, what is that?
Right.
And I can just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody. Because like, what? Because it's Christian heresy, and I'm offended by that as a Christian.
So here's a man, Tucker Carlson, who claims to be a Christian, yet often says, I don't really know about the Bible. I don't really know about your theology. And yet is attacking the belief that God has a love and a plan for Israel and the Jewish people as heresy, not heresy. We'll deal with that. But that was bad. But embracing and platforming a neo-Nazi is much, much worse. I want to start with a series of clips. So I want to begin with this right now. Let's start with the first clip.
I came home. I told my parents, I'm like, Mom, Dad, the Holocaust didn't happen. And they were like, we did not raise you this way. I remember coming home from college and my second semester, I got home in the spring and I was like, Mom, Dad, Hitler was awesome. Hitler was right. And the Holocaust didn't happen. And my parents were like, we cannot believe what you are saying. We did not raise you like this. I'm like, I can't believe you're not being chill about this. I was like shocked because my parents aren't even that political. I mean, my parents are like vaguely conservative, like boomers are. But I was like, yeah, guys, guess what? You're never going to believe what I discovered. And they were so not cool about it. They were pissed. They were like, we will not tolerate that in our house. I'm like, they got you too. They got to you too. I remember being like, and I fought with them for a long time about that. That's why I tell you don't red pill your parents, because I played that game. I was like, Mom, Dad, you don't think it's a little bit weird that we can't criticize Jews? You can talk about anything else, anybody else, any other event, but you talk about this one, they were not buying it. They did not bite. Okay, I'll bite. They did not bite.
Now here's another quote. This is very important because here Nick Fuentes says that he doesn't believe the Holocaust really happened, not the way people say it happened, not the way historians say it happened, and he just mockingly equates killing 6 million Jews in ovens at Auschwitz to baking 6 million batches of cookies in an oven. Take a look.
Max says, if I take 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies and Cookie Monster has 15 ovens, working 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years, how long does it take Cookie Monster to make 6 million batches of cookies? I don't know. That's a good question. Certainly, oh, no. It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right? doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years, how long would it take you to make $6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there. The math doesn't quite seem to add up there. I don't think you'd result in 6 million, maybe 200 to 300,000 cookies. And I think the Red Cookie Association said something like that, probably 200 to 300,000 cookies baked.
Do you understand how sick a person has to be to say that? Especially when we already know from the previous clip that he likes Hitler. He thinks Hitler was right. He loves Hitler. He thinks Hitler is awesome. His parents don't, but he does. That is who Tucker Carlson thinks is a wonderful person to put on his program with 16 million viewers on X and 5 million viewers on YouTube. But when I think of what's going on in the United States and the explosion of anti-Semitism, and when we're talking about an increase of about 360% in anti-Semitic attacks in 2024 than there were in any previous year, that's a problem. And the fact that Tucker Carlson is not only attacking Christian Zionists as having a brain virus and that we believe in heresy, that we're teaching heresy, that's bad. That's pretty bad. It's untrue also. But what's worse is that Tucker Carlson is embracing a Jew-hating, Holocaust-denying neo-Nazi.
Why don't you and Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin and Laura Loomer go to Israel, which we all know you love so much? Do us all a favor. Otherwise, you better get on board. Because whether you like it or not, this country is done. We are done with the Jewish oligarchy. We are done with the slavish surrender to Israel, the wars, the foreign aid, the policing of anti-Semitism, the Holocaust religion and propaganda. You know it. I know it. The young people in this country, the next generation, God bless them, on the left and the right, they know that you are full of, they're finished with the lies, with the humiliation rituals, insulting our intelligence, the derision and the contempt that you hold us in. Everyone knows it. And you know as well as anybody that in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, there's only going to be more Nick Fuenteses. There's only going to be more Groypers. Your Vice President, J.D. Vance, even he knows he has to pander to us.
That's bad enough, right? That Nick Fuentes, this neo-Nazi, is telling Jews, you got to leave America and go back to Israel. We don't want you. You're horrible people. But that's not what he really wants. This is what he really wants.
There is an occult element at the high levels of society, and specifically among the Jews. So many of the people that are perpetrating the lies and the destruction on the country, they are evildoers. They are people that worship false gods. They are people that practice magic or rituals or whatever. And more than anything, those people need to be, when we take power, they need to be given the death penalty. Straight up. And I'm far more concerned about that than I am about even non-white people or mass migration. These people that are communing with demons and engaging in this sort of witchcraft and stuff, and these people that are suppressing the name Christ and suppressing Christianity, they must be absolutely annihilated when we take power. This is God's country. This is Jesus's country. This is not the domain of atheists or devil worshippers or perfidious Jews. This is Christ's country.
That is Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes, he doesn't really want to kick Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro and other Jewish people out of America. He wants to annihilate us. Okay? He wants to destroy, massacre, incinerate Jewish people. And he says when we come to power, that's what's going to happen.
Today's verse of the day, Genesis 12:3. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him who curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. Today's prayer requests: first, pray that more and more people will understand why they should bless Israel according to God's word. Second, pray for discernment and courage among Christian leaders to speak truth in love, even when it's unpopular. And third, pray that the peace of God will reign in Israel and for Jewish communities around the world to feel supported and loved by followers of Jesus.
Now, Tucker Carlson says that he was a friend of Charlie Kirk. But he's saying that Charlie Kirk, who, by the way, my words, Charlie Kirk was the most pro-Israel influencer of anyone on the right, certainly anyone on the younger right in America. Charlie Kirk was amazing. But Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and others are trying to say, well, Charlie used to love Israel, but then now he was about to abandon Israel. I don't buy it. But look what Nick Fuentes says about Charlie Kirk. Look what Nick Fuentes says about Charlie Kirk, who supposedly, Tucker Carlson considers Charlie one of his dearest friends. Take a look.
I think a lot of people are starting to find out Charlie Kirk is not the patriot that he says he is. And so I look at what happened last night and I think to myself, this is totally a doable operation. You know, Charlie Kirk in the grand scheme of things is just some retarded idiot. The dog is terrified. I had to go upstairs and reassure him because I'm screaming at my screen, calling Charlie Kirk a bitch and everything. The contrast could not be more clear. Charlie Kirk is a totally unexceptional human being. A moral struggle that's happening on the higher dimension, right? Which is Christ versus the devil. Who does Charlie Kirk serve? You know, is he really a Christian? Is he really Christ-like when he supports foreign wars and Israel and all this? Look at the people he's taking money from. You know, so the guy's a fake Christian. The guy's not a patriot. He hates our country. He's un-American. Let's focus all our firepower on Charlie Kirk. Why are we doing this? It's because Charlie Kirk is a fake patriot, a fake Christian, and he hates his people. He's anti-white. This is our angle. We talk about Charlie Kirk's dual allegiance to Israel. The almighty Oz, the massive head with the tiny face behind the curtain, Charlie Kirk, lording over the conservative movement. Remember, the goal is to expose the globalism, the fake conservatism of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk gets asked a tough question and he reverts back to Israel, God bless Israel, Israel's the best, He malfunctions, he can't do it because I think he has Asperger's. I believe that. We acknowledge that Charlie Kirk is not conservative, he's destroying the country, and we can all agree that we have to put a stop to that, right?
Now, you have to understand that soundbite is before Charlie Kirk is murdered. That soundbite by the neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes all happens prior to Charlie Kirk being assassinated. What is Nick Fuentes calling for? Charlie Kirk to be stopped. Nick Fuentes says, we have to direct all our firepower to stop, not just to discredit, he wants to do that too, not just humiliate, he wants to do that too, but to stop, to silence Charlie Kirk. That is sick. That's who Tucker Carlson is embracing. What has gone wrong with Tucker Carlson?
I, for one, welcome our Asian overlords as long as they're not Jewish. As long as they're not Jewish, maybe they'll help us get some Christians in power. Let's use the Indians and the Chinese to displace the Jews, and then we'll convert the nation, and then we'll get the Catholics in there. And in the meantime, we'll shut the borders, and the Chinese will be chopping off the hands of all the black criminals. Wouldn't that be awesome, though? I was thinking about this the other day. Tell me I'm crazy. What if, in an alternate timeline, Beijing said, you know what, we're tired of seeing Chinese nationals getting beat up by blacks in New York City, so we're invading New York City. And what if China took over New York City? And what if they made New York look like Beijing or Shanghai? And there was no crime, and there were cops everywhere, and they cleaned up the streets, and they built mega projects and new skyscrapers. Wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't we support that? What if we had like Chinese soldiers on every corner, and if a black person started spazzing out, they took a sword out and cut his hands off? But people are like, no, China's our enemy. It's like, I want China. China would do a better job running our country than we do. Okay, they have concentration camps. That's a joke. That's not real. They have re-education facilities for Uyghurs. Okay, what if they did to Harlem and the south side of Chicago what they're doing in Xinjiang to the Uyghurs? Is that not ideal? Okay, and what if they went to LA and somebody breaks into somebody's window and a giant Chinese soldier grabs him by his neck and says, "Xi and just guts him, just guts his belly and his intestines spill out and throws him to the side, throws him into the river." Is there a river? No, there's no river in LA. Throws him into the Pacific Ocean, his body swallowed by the sea, swallowed by the waves. And he's got a hat on. That's the country I want to live in.
How sick is this young man? He claims to be America first, but what he's dreaming of are Chinese communists taking over America, chopping people's hands off, or gutting them and ripping out their intestines and killing people, slaughtering them in the streets, and building concentration camps in America. This is the world that Nick Fuentes wants. I'm not making this up. You're watching it. Okay? And Tucker Carlson has no problem with this. If he does, why didn't he say so? You know, I've seen various interviews that Tucker Carlson has done. I haven't been a big fan of, like when he interviewed Vladimir Putin, and it was a total softball interview. He seems to love Vladimir Putin. He seems to love the leaders of Iran. He seems to love the leaders of Qatar. These are some of our worst enemies in the United States, and certainly the worst enemies of Israel. But Tucker Carlson doesn't have any problem with them. Now, when he sat down with Senator Ted Cruz, that was a firefight, right? Tucker Carlson has no problem going at you and challenging you and berating you and laughing at you and mocking you and criticizing things that you think if you're Ted Cruz, if you're a conservative. If you're a Christian conservative who happens to love Israel, you're going to get even more attack. But a neo-Nazi, he doesn't get any attack, doesn't get any criticism. Vladimir Putin, who invades Ukraine and leads to the death of several million people, death and the severe wounding of millions of people, stealing of children, raping of women, killing of Christian priests and pastors, like bombing of churches by the Russians, that doesn't seem to bother Tucker Carlson at all. So you can see where his values are when you see the interviews he does, and when he challenges someone, with spite, you know that he hates that person. He despises that person's views. And Tucker Carlson says he despises any Christian who believes in Christian Zionism. He says that Christian Zionism is a brain virus, and he's mocking and blasting people like Ambassador Mike Huckabee, Senator Ted Cruz, and others who are avowed born-again Christians, evangelicals, who believe in a strong U.S.-Israel relationship and believe that the Bible lays out this wonderful promise that God has made to Israel and the Jewish people. And what we know today is Christian Zionism. It is very sound. It's very biblical. Jesus believed it. The Apostle Paul believed it. Charles Spurgeon believed it. Billy Graham believed it. Dr. James Dobson believed it. But Tucker Carlson, who describes himself as fairly new to even reading the Bible, and repeatedly has said, I don't really know much about theology. I don't really know much about the Bible. But he hates Christian Zionism and has decided that he knows that it's heresy. It's not.
It's funny, in February, I was like trying to think about what to do for Lent. I'm not a particularly faithful or virtuous person, but like you try to do something. I already quit smoking, so like what's next? And I thought, well, I'm just going to read the Bible. And no, I'm not going to do a Bible study. I'm a Protestant, so I feel like I have a right to kind of read it myself. And I know, I'm sorry, I feel that way. You know, I've got very strong feelings about all kinds of issues, but it's so important to be open to the possibility that I'm completely wrong. And that what I'm espousing is actually destructive, not constructive.
In fact, go back to my show from last week. You can see it on YouTube or at rosenbergreport.tv, where I walk through the 10 reasons, biblical reasons, why Christians should love and bless Israel, as well as loving the Palestinians and others in the region. And I walk through the biblical case very clearly. So I commend that show to you. It's interesting. There's about 150 Christian journalists in town here in Israel this week for what's known as the Christian Media Summit. And that's put on by the government press office here in Israel. And one of the themes that we discussed, I spoke to the group as well, and as a number of other American and Israeli evangelicals did, to walk through what a huge problem Tucker Carlson now poses for the American right. So this is a test now for President Trump, for Vice President Vance. How are they going to handle Tucker Carlson? Because Tucker Carlson, as I did in a column on All Israel News, I mean, it looks like he's descending into madness. It's one thing, as I say, it's one thing to criticize Israel and have various criticisms. Fine, have a debate. Have a debate like Tucker did with Senator Ted Cruz. But when you embrace a lunatic, a sick, anti-Semitic, anti-Jew, anti-Christian, Holocaust denier, neo-Nazi, that you have now entered a dark world that everyone should be distancing themselves from Tucker Carlson. And if you're a friend of Tucker Carlson, go make the case to him privately, publicly. Try to bring him back from the dark side, because this is sickening. Every organization is going to have to figure this out, because this is a cancer that is infecting, it's entering the body politic on the American right. It's already metastasizing on the left, and President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, they're going to have to deal with this from the top, and they're going to have to deal with it decisively, or this is going to spread like a sickness, like a cancer in the American right. Well, that's our show for this week. We need you to be praying, and we need you to be processing. Why do you stand with Israel? Why does the Bible tell us to stand with Israel? We don't have to agree with everything that Prime Minister Netanyahu or others say or do, but we need to understand the biblical reasons why we should stand with Israel, why we should love Israel, why we should bless Israel. And you can find out more about that from the show from last week or on our YouTube channel. Well, again, that's all the time we have tonight. I hope that was helpful. I know it wasn't pleasant, but it was important. This is what we do. To be a watchman on the wall, you have to see a threat coming and warn people. That's what I'm trying to do best that I can. Well, thank you so much for watching. I encourage you to be in the Word this week, in prayer, in fellowship with other followers of Jesus Christ. Reach out to your Jewish friends and tell them how much you love them and how much you love the nation and people of Israel because of your love for Jesus, because of your love for the Jewish Messiah. Don't let Jews feel alone this week. Have a great week. Again, walking with the Lord, caring for the poor, praying for the peace of Jerusalem. And Lord willing, I'll see you next week right here.
Thanks for listening to this episode in which Joel talks about the rise of people turning hostile against Israel and speaking against God's people. If you have found this podcast particularly valuable, please click the subscribe button on your podcast app and share this episode or show with a friend or family member who may be interested. Please don't hesitate to contact us. Let us know who you are. Do you want to talk about something else on the show? Do you have a question you'd like to ask Joel? Please send any questions or comments you may have to podcast@joshuafund.net. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to us as we continue to develop this podcast. Want to support the work of the Joshua Fund's mission of blessing Israel and her neighbors in the name of Jesus? Visit us at joshuafund.com and click the donate button. Again, that website is joshuafund.com to learn more about what we are doing and how to become an Epicenter ally today. And as always, be sure to check out our show notes for any information you'd like more details on from the podcast. Thanks again for listening. On behalf of the entire Joshua Fund team, we invite you to join us again next time as we continue to unpack the headlines, the prophecies, and the hope of Christ that's rising in the Middle East. Until then, stay watchful, stay prayerful, and keep your eyes on the Epicenter.
I'm Joel Rosenberg. On your left, you'll find some videos we've chosen specifically for you. We look forward to partnering with you to bless Israel and her neighbors in the name of Jesus.